A mini Schengen, I've heard you talk about. How does that work?
I talked about it in the sense that I don't want it. I want the EU 28 to work together, get the borders under control, work together in improving the conditions for refugees in the region, working with Turkey, and basically getting this under control. What happens now is that one country after the other individually are taking measures, starting to close the borders, etc. Yeah. And that is the way that I don't want to go. If necessary, we will work between countries to stop the negative spiral, but I prefer the 28 route.
Well, Jeroen, no one wants it, but is that where we're heading?
Where we're heading now is even worse, which is individual member states taking their measures and closing borders. And I'm not sure where that's going to lead.
So does that mean that say, a five-member mini Schengen is a way to rescue some sort of free trade and commerce if everything does break down?
I don't want it. Yeah. I'll keep saying that. And the reason why I brought the whole subject up is to say, between where we are now, countries individually taking measures, and what we really need, the EU 28 to step up together, there could be a sort of a midterm solution, but I don't want it.
You know, in Austria, they floated this idea of having an upper limit and trying to spur an upper limit for refugees and trying to spur other countries into sort of having the conversation. Where are you on this, and is an upper limit something for the Netherlands?
Well, there is a joint interest of those countries that are now taking in the largest numbers, and that's, of course, Sweden, Denmark, well, no longer, you could argue, Germany, Austria, but also the Netherlands. Those are the main countries where the refugees are going to. Those countries have a strong common agenda, how to get it under control, how to manage the numbers, but also how to control who comes in and with what motives. So there is a lot of ground to work together.
Does that mean you're for or against an upper limit?
I don't think you can use an upper limit in the end. We need to get it under control. We need to get the numbers down. I can't fix the number and say it has to be this or it cannot be more than that. I know that the current numbers that we're taking in Europe cannot go on. It's becoming disruptive at local level. We cannot manage it.
Yeah.
It's a very complex operation. So let's bring those numbers.
Well, let's talk about how we got here. A very bold decision by the German Chancellor Angela Merkel to literally open the gates and let everyone in. Was that a mistake?
I don't think that's what she said. I think she said...
But that's what happened.
She literally said, we can manage it. And Germany has managed it so far, and Sweden has managed it, but says this is as much as we can do. And the same basically goes for the Netherlands. We've managed it so far, but we don't want to do this year after year, and certainly don't want to let it increase. So that's our main challenge.
As long as we're talking about managing crises, you did an adequate job, I think most would say, over managing the Greek crisis over the summer. Where are we now, and do you get any sense that the IMF is going to participate?
I think they will, but the IMF has been very clear that what the things are that they want. So first of all, we need a good pension reform because the pensions system at the moment is not sustainable. So it eats out of the budget very large sums every year. And of course, that budget has to be balanced. So the first thing is a pension reform. The second one is fiscal sustainability long-term, primary surplus. And if the Greeks can deliver that, and that's what the talks are about now, then we'll talk about debt issues. I think that's the right order. That makes sense. I think the IMF has a good point, and that's how we're going to do it.
But on the pension issue, it looks like Greece is going heavy on the contribution side, not the outflow side. Is that an error?
That's not quite fair. I think they've put a serious proposal on the table. It seems to be sustainable in the long run, but there are fiscal gaps in the short run. Okay. So they are pushing down the pensions for next generations. But there is a short-term issue that has to be resolved, and that is about how to fill those fiscal gaps. So we're doing work on that, and the institutions are talking to the Greeks. That may take a couple of weeks, but we'll keep pushing the process.
I spoke to PM Moscovici just a couple of days ago, and it seems to all revolve around what's going to happen with the pension and the pension plan. Is that the only real sticking point as you see things evolving from here, Minister?
It's not the only one, but it's the logic order, because once we've worked out the pension plan, you then know what the budget will look like from now on. See whether that's sustainable. We need a primary surplus in the budget to deal with debt management in the future. Once we have all that, we can do the numbers. What does the debt burden look like on an annual basis? There will be spikes, periods in which the Greeks have to pay a lot of money all in a short period of time. and we need to see whether we can do something to take away those spikes. So there is a logic order of the things, and that's how we're going to do it.
Have you spoken to the IMF Managing Director Lagarde this week, and what were your conversations with her, and is it promising, their involvement, as far as you see things evolving?
She's been very clear, but she's been very clear right from the beginning what she needs for the IMF to step back in. They are involved in the day-to-day work. They are involved in the talks right now. But to formally be part of the program again, they need to get the right figures. And I think they've got a good point.
Staying with finance, but away from Greece, single resolution mechanism, very tense discussions, tense negotiations. Do you need an SRM to have some sort of banking union? How crucial is it, and how are you going to bridge the differences?
The SRM has started as of the 1st of January, and that basically means that the tough rules for the banks that need resolution or need financial support, those tough rules are now in place. Yeah. And of course,
but there's still some areas that haven't been quite settled.
Well, there are two issues. One is legacy. The way the balance sheets of European banks sometimes are structured is very vulnerable given the new rules. So that will have to change. Those banks will have to deal with how they are financed at the moment to comply to the new rules. The second issue is that there are open issues still to deal with in the banking union. One is about the common deposit guarantee system, which is a backstop to the deposits. We need that. We've always said it will be part of the banking union. And there are a number of open issues which are about the quality and quantity of capital in banks. So we're going to work on that. We're going to resolve them. There is a strong connection between the two. The one is about risk sharing. The other is about risk reduction. So there's also a political deal to be made. And that's what we're going to try and do in the Dutch presidency period.
On the backstop to the backstop, are the Germans moving any bit closer to some sort of unified depository insurance?
It will require the Germans to move. It will require other countries to move because the Germans are hesitant to talk about the common deposit insurance. Other countries are very hesitant to talk about risk reduction, to look too critical at bank balance sheets. But we will have to do that. If everyone sticks in their positions, we won't make progress. It's as simple as that. So I'm going to try and push both sides of the debate and keep them aligned.
Final topic of discussion, Brexit. Can the UK do a deal with Europe?
I think so.
And what does it look like? Because it's not clear to me at all. I don't think it's clear to the electorate in the UK. What does that deal actually look like, Minister?
Well, it would be up to David Cameron to define the deal he needs. But
what would you agree to?
The key issues, which are about how efficient and effective is the EU run, why is the EU, Europe not more competitive? How can we deepen the internal market? How can we work between the Euros and the outsides, the non-Euros? Those are fair issues, and they are not just a concern to the UK. They are a concern to many countries. So I keep saying to my friends in the UK, look, guys, you're not on your own. You're not the only one who are worried about these elements in how we function. So let's have a good agreement on that. The difficult issue, the open issue at the moment is still the labour migrants and their position, their benefits. But to be quite frank, that's a debate that's going on in a number of countries. And I think it's a fair point to say that migrants need to pay in and contribute to the system before they take out. Now let's look at the way to design that in a way that it's valuable for all of our member states. And it doesn't discriminate between EU members, between EU citizens. That's the key issue. I think it can be done. I don't have the final design of it. I think it can be done. And I think it's a great interest. It certainly is an interest to the Netherlands. We've always been a close partner to the UK. We were one of the countries that actually pulled them in. Come and join us. And we are very determined to keep them in.
You know, I know Jonathan said that was the last question, but I'm going to attempt a China one on you here. When we look from here in Davos, it looks bleak. The markets are reacting strongly. Yesterday's a bit of a bounce back. What do you see in terms of market reaction and versus the reality on the ground and the financial structure of the Chinese system? Is this just a communication problem?
I think the Chinese economy has structural issues, also in the financial sector, vulnerabilities. But if you look at the reform program that the Chinese government has, which is, I think, now 2-3 years old, those are the right issues to address. And it's allowing the market to have to really price investments, to really price the currency right. And that transition process, getting those reforms in place in China, that is key. So they need to push it. They need to really finish that agenda and, of course, manage it well, the transition.